Thank you very much. Very happy to be with you this special period where people are thinking hopefully about those who are most dear to them, their beloveds. I'd like to first make a prayer to one of my most beloveds, my spiritual master, spiritual mentor, left the planet about 18 years ago. And each day is a chance for me to try to connect deeper with the internal transmission that allows us to understand present, past a little better, and also future. What helps us to appreciate how we're all much more than physical entities, and how there's much more love, much more help, much more assistance than that we normally see, feel, touch, taste, etc. And then I want to offer you a gift and explain something about it and see how we can somehow assist each other in helping to stimulate ourselves into being able to enjoy life on a higher level, to stimulate ourselves in being able to reclaim our eternal existence, because by nature we say in Sanskrit, Satchitananda Vigraha, that the soul is eternally blissful, full of knowledge, not information, but full of knowledge and wisdom. And that the soul is always in relationship. Now it's somewhat in a dormant state, and because of that, there's so many complexities in people being able to experience deeper sentiments of love. Because of much of what we do is so much about the external body, the external environment, and much of what we do is involving ourselves in a take kind of society. So in one sense, love is becoming more and more out, and lust is in. Now, so much of what constitutes a sense of well-being is how much money or how many commodities that we have, sometimes the kind of job that we have, or the sort of hairstyle that we are wearing, the sort of clothes. Those things are drawing more attention, much more than what a person is really having internally. And with this kind of cosmetic environment that modern day mankind, womankind is experiencing, it's narcoticizing us more and more in such ways. And so we hope today to help to kind of stimulate ourselves about reclaiming some powerful gems, some powerful jewels. So I'll say a short prayer. Om Aganati Miranyasya Gyanajinasya Lakshaya Sakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Namo Vistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakara Mayam Tiranti Swaparatikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitsinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivesessa Sundavari Paskachare Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Siddhareta Garhasi Vasari Go Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just as I rushed down here, I was just doing a short radio program in the car. Trying to use modern technology as a call-in. Of course, we're using secular phone. And I was just discussing how at this particular time, Valentine's Day, or tomorrow will be, it's a time hopefully people are trying to connect more with someone who's very important in their lives. So I was saying that I wanted to give some gifts. And all of you, as you come in, you have a book. And so we would like you to take this home and to share it with someone who is very dear to you. And we have given various technologies in this particular book, particularly to raise consciousness. We've given various technologies to help us to kind of connect with those things that we're always anxious for. We all are wanting to love, wanting to be loved. And this is also part of the problem, because it's significant for us to not so much want to be loved, but more important for us to give love. See, often we want to have the love, but we're not trying to give the love. And when we can be loving, then love will naturally be there. See, we cannot so much force someone to love us, even though sometimes we try. We should not even be so distracted if seemingly someone is not showing love. But we should be very careful to see that we are being loving. Because if we are loving, then the nature of what one thinks and what one does comes back. So there's never a shortage of experiencing love, but there's a shortage of being loving. And if we're not loving, then of course we won't get back because we're not putting anything out. So if we put out, then we're going to see the nature of the universe is that it's going to give us concomitantly to what we put out. But it's hard to put out when we're thinking that love is something conditional. Loving is something that you can do anywhere, at any time, under all circumstances. Being genuinely compassionate, selfless, and caring is something that doesn't matter where you are, who you're with, what the circumstances, one can access being loving, if in fact we're really understanding what love is. Now there's a difference between sex and love. Sex is naturally a part or connected with the experience of people coming together for a union with hopefully the idea of complementing each other to honor God. But so much based on the externals, it becomes to such an extent that people are thinking that sex itself is love. So because of that, now we see incest on the rise. Because if love and sex is the same, then even your children, or sometimes even people involving themselves with animals or whatever, that you care for based on what one considers care, if they're thinking that care is just material and it's just based on sex, then how much people miss the chance to really to interact, to know, and to appreciate each other. And so therefore we see people having so many relationships because they have no relationship that's really substantive. Or we find that people are thinking that love is a noun. It is a verb. It is about what we do, how we serve each other, how we sacrifice, how we commit, how we move about and do things based on that inner deep expression that's now has become manifested externally. It's not a noun. It's about how we capture the blessings and the affection and the mercy that's there from the Godhead, and how we become more and more raptured in that and share it. It's not about people who are feeling incomplete, looking for someone who's somehow going to make them happy or make them fulfilled. But it's about being whole and trying to connect with someone else who's also having a sense of wholeness. Someone else who also has a sense of taking the mercy and shelter of God. Because that is the source. So if you want something, the best thing is to connect with the source, and then the powerhouse is there and so many things happen. But with this mechanized environment, it's quite difficult. We need to love each other. We need to trust each other. Like this book that we're giving you. Now, I love also the printer and I love also the transporter, but maybe they don't love us or love me, but they charge me, huh? But we're not going to worry that much about that one. Except, as we give you this, we like to feel that you are obliged to reciprocate in some way. The biggest reciprocation is that you use it. And now we're going to, and I'm just going to show you how powerful this book is. I'm just going to read 1 or 2 pages that you're going to read along with me. And we're going to have our half an hour discussion simply based on 1 or 2 pages of the particular book. You turn to page 133. In your book. It's your book now. Now some people are saying hey, nothing is free these days, and you're right. 131, I'm sorry. 131. My spiritual master said if you give people things free, they don't take advantage of it, they throw it away, etc. So what we're going to ask you, though, is that as you have means, you simply give a donation for the book. The biggest donation is that the biggest commitment is that you share with somebody. Just so we guarantee you share with somebody, you give a love offering for it according to your particular means. And we will be very pleased in that particular way. We ask particularly one book for a family. If you came couples or whatnot, then perhaps you may want to just only take one of the books. But it's a manual, so it's something not just for reading, but it's for putting into practice. And it's something that works because it's giving techniques that are very universal. And it's something that's highly in need. Just yesterday I was doing another radio show, and I was mentioning how with the divorce situation now, that like at around 1910, 1920, about 10% of people were divorcing. And in 1970, about 50% of marriages end in divorce. And now in 1990, 67% of marriages are ending in divorce. And now that's formal divorce. That doesn't say how many people are just still, legally married and they hate each other's guts. Or how many are legally married and still they are living, even though they're supposedly living together, but they're in some form of separation. And we realize that the family is a microcosm of the society. And so if the family is in disarray, then we understand the tribe, the nation, the international community, because it's just a microcosm. It's just the microcosm of the family itself. And if we are able to tune in to healthier relationships within the family, then we'll see how so many things will flourish in so many different ways. So remember that love is not just noun. It's the sacrifice. It's the selflessness. It's the things that we do. It's not dependent on somebody else. It's not dependent on something external. But it's dependent upon being and then receiving and then sharing. So if we're in such anxiety that we haven't found that person we've been dreaming about for so long, then we need to stop dreaming and start acting. We need to start acting with a sense of nobility. Just as, for instance, some of you who take the book, if you feel impoverished, then you're going to keep having that mentality, and you're going to keep bringing the same thing. But if you feel a sense of nobility, a sense of prosperity, then you will begin to draw such things. If you feel a sense of gratitude, then you will draw others who will have that sort of gratitude and appreciation for you. But if you feel victimized, you feel unprotected, uncared for, then you're going to draw, of course, that into your particular life. But if we, realizing that we can never be empty of love as long as we're being loving, then we'll be constantly receiving because the universe will reciprocate with us in such a way. As we stop thinking that love or attracting people just based on externals, then people will stop relating to us in that particular way also. So I'm just going to take you with just these 10 principles, especially since we're talking about Valentine's. So we're looking at the chapter Love Between a Man and a Woman, discussing about being whole, complete, going beyond just the temporaries, going beyond just the frustrations that come for experiencing lust and greed and avariciousness rather than selflessness, compassion, and love. So I'll read this as you read along with me. We must learn to love ourselves. Starting off, first we must love ourselves. People say, but that's what everybody's doing. And that's why there's so much chaos and pandemonium. No, we're not saying we must learn to lust after ourselves or lust after others or put more attention to our lusty desires. But we must learn to love ourselves. Now, what does that mean? As we have seen, those who do not care for themselves cannot give it to others. It is hard to give something that you do not have. It is hard to share something that is not with you. It is hard to connect with somebody with something when your own supply is empty. But when you have, then you can share and you can connect based on that. One aspect of self-love is to observe 4 basic principles. No drugs, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, no meat eating. All these indulgences can weaken our basic constitution. The more we allow ourselves to live accordingly to natural laws, the more surrendered we become to the will of God. If we lack self-esteem, we are refusing to see ourselves as children of God and do not have sufficient love and devotion to share with anyone else. So this is first technology here about love between man and woman. That first man or woman or person must love themselves by stop doing violence to themselves. They must stop degrading themselves. They must stop treating themselves as if they are impoverished, treating themselves as if they're bereft, treating themselves as if they're victims, treating themselves as if they're lonely and not worthy of anyone else. But as they treat themselves with such honor and giving the best care to the body as it is required, putting the best things in the system, then as one has higher and higher quality about their own essence and existence, then they will attract such also other persons who will complement the quality that they are maintaining. 2. So first thing, it starts with ourselves. We don't have to go on dating lines. We don't have to go to this place, that place, looking for someone. We first have to be. And as we are, then wherever we go, then we will draw people similar. We will connect with people. People will come after us because of what we are radiating, what we're emanating. But if we're constantly feeling empty, being empty, and looking outside for something that's somehow going to create the miracle, then we will constantly be waiting and waiting. 2. In other words, we want to help you to find that perfect person that you are thinking about, because there's no perfect person. The material body is full of dualities, the mind. But to find that connection that allows you to really feel good about life, about your present, and extremely exhilarated about your future. So that you'll stop going to bed crying on your pillow by yourself. So that you will stop going places feeling that nobody is concerned about you, or you don't find anybody that you're concerned with. That you are such an agent of the Godhead. And therefore, when you have that kind of intensity, it doesn't matter so much whether somebody is trying to connect with you or not, because you are what you are. You are loving. And because you're loving, you're feeling inspiration based on that. And of course, you will naturally draw connections, but you will be loving. And therefore, it's like sometimes we find when it comes to finance, when you don't need money, it's easy to get money. The more you need it, the more difficult it is. You go to a bank and you really need it, you'll get nothing. But you go to a bank and you have a lot of money, or you have assets, and you want more to invest, to do more things with, then there's a good opportunity. When you have only lust, only emptiness, only existentialism, only sadness, and you're going to try to find happiness, you're in trouble. You will simply be bankrupt. Because you will connect with others who have that same kind of defeatist mentality. But when you have a great sense of strength, a great sense of positiveness and wholeness, and we'll go along and explain how to get that, then so many things will happen as people want to be connected with you because of how you revitalize them based on who and what you are. 2, the love we receive from our mate actually comes from the Lord, and our job is to send it back. Others channel God's love to us, and we channel his love to others. The Lord is engaging us in play to see what we do with his love. We can reciprocate God's love by caring for our partner with great devotion, as if God himself were present. Our mate becomes a pathway through which we can return our love to God. Just number 2. The love we receive from our partner, from our mate, the love we receive from our beloved, is actually love given by God to ultimately be received back by God. Just like you give someone something to hold for you, and then you later want it back. Or you give something to someone to hold, and you're going to see what they're going to do with it, how they're going to use it. If they use it properly, then you're going to give them more. So that love that is within the essence of our mate, that we're trying to connect with, we can reflect on that as being given by God. And therefore, like an interplay of God appearing in a certain way through a certain person to connect with us, to see how much we are ready to receive more of his magnanimous blessings and love. That means really recognizing each person as a carrier of God's essence, God's love, of God's compassion. It's like you put something very special in your drawer, in your car, and even in your house. So it's there, and it's now being housed by that external situation. How powerful it is if, as people interact, they're interacting and they are viewing, they are connecting, they are perceiving each other as an essence of God that they're having chance to interact with. Even if someone is being very gross and very mundane, by one, him or herself, relating to another in that way, it has sometimes a tendency of accessing the more divine aspects in that person and letting those things come forward. Everyone has that great sense of divinity. It's just that some people have it closed down more. Some people have it more in a dormant state. But it is there, and the right kind of energy, the right kind of connections, the right kind of association stimulates it. Now, it's important to stimulate it because what we stimulate is then what we're going to experience. If we don't want to experience so much anxiety, gloom, and frustration, we don't want to experience so much depression, we don't want to experience so much sense of loss and impoverishment, then we want to think differently ourselves, and we want to have the environment to dictate to us differently. And so as we hold such things within our essence, within our consciousness, and as we think of others similarly, we don't play into others' mundaneness, nonsense, sense gratification, lust, but we elevate the consciousness of that person, which then feeds back the environment, which then gives us more, which then allows us to share more and allows more to come to us because we have more as a magnet to attract. We're talking about basic metaphysical science, going beyond just the being imprisoned. Mostly we are biologically imprisoned to just the lust. We miss the chance for the great freedom that's a natural part of the soul, even while in this body. But it is stagnated as long as people are lusting after each other or looking simply for someone to do something for them or thinking that love is something that somebody else does for them, without realizing that love is being loving and then drawing others who are similar. 3, love has no price tag. It is not a business arrangement or a contract with an escape clause for difficult circumstances. We cannot approach the Lord in a mood of bargaining, and we should not begin our meditations and our prayers with a long shopping list. Now, just think what happens in day-to-day interpersonal relationships. When most people, even their relationships with the Godhead, it is so much based on externals. Their prayers, the meditations, they go to pilgrimage places, when they do mantra chanting, when they do toning, whatever, it is so much still based on demanding some particular things for themselves. Imagine even if you have someone who you consider is your friend, but all the times that you interact with them, they're always asking you for something. You do not consider that to be a very wonderful relationship. After a while, you even feel like avoiding the person. Well, if people have that relationship mainly with God, no wonder they have it with each other. When basically their idea is they're making their prayers, they're making their salat, they're going to the temples, they're going to the mandirs, they're going to the church, they're going to the synagogues, and they're going to do business. Their idea is, dear God, I need this, I want this, make this thing happen, give me this situation. So they are possessing basic consciousness of selfishness, of lust, and they're somehow thinking that somehow love is going to be ignited when they get all these blocks of lust and all these blocks simply based on externals, based on commodities. Love is a verb. It's things that we do, things that we begin to experience and share with each other. It is not just only a feeling. If it's a feeling, when you're not feeling it, then you feel totally empty. And you're trying to somehow catch that feeling. But when you understand it, it is an experience that one is having based on higher connection, based on stimulating those loving aspects of ourselves, which is so much based on anti-material reflections, anti-material meditations, anti-material actions. Matter is just that. It is limiting, it is stagnating, and it reaches devastation. So things that are designed to destruct, things that are designed to deteriorate, things that are designed to wear down, can't give us a great sense of longevity, can't give us a great sense of peace and happiness and fulfillment when their essence is that they're going to fall apart. Everything material is in transition and is falling apart. So if we're basing our relationships based on so many external things, then one day we're going to be so shocked. The person we marry based on external arrangements, one day we look in the mirror and we're different, and then he's also different. If we're based on finance, if we're based on prestige, all of those kind of things are temporary, so you can't have something very deep when your basic foundation is that of temporary considerations. So we look close at our prayers, and as our prayers are selfless types of prayers, then we're connecting with the source of love in a compassionate way, and it begins then to engender or access our ability to be able to relate to part and parcels of God similarly. Because what we are is what we share, and we're becoming more of that. Prayer of this nature are not based on unmotivated, unconditional love, and do not help us to develop the higher consciousness necessary to make us whole. And as we're reading this, compare this to your own life so that we can use these things to make a difference. We do not have to remind God of our needs. The more we accept the fact that our lives are always under God's control, the more we understand the true prayer means thy will be done. When we can sincerely offer such a prayer, we are becoming more integrated beings. Now, it is not so easy to trust people when constantly our environment is saying mistrust, when constantly our environment is saying go for your own sovereign concerns and do it as quick and fast as you can, because other people also are doing, and they may get what you want before you do. Then it becomes hard to think of making oneself available with great faith and devotion to the Godhead. Because in most of our concerns and interactions, we see that if we do not get one over on someone else, someone will get one over on us. And so much diplomacy goes on under the guise of mutual sharing and caring. And it's just a matter, again, of business and diplomacy. So if we consider that God knows what we need, we know what we want, and that when you're with somebody who really loves you and cares about you to your entirety, then they are looking even beyond you, beyond what you're thinking, to try to see how to arrange things that are going to be for your well-being. And so much of deep love has to do then with deep connections with God consciousness. Because we can't be deep if we don't connect with the source. And we can't have unconditional connections unless we are going beyond the material. Material things are conditional. We can't have unconditional love when we are captured and stagnated by just conditional things. We can't have eternal pleasures and eternal realizations when our life is so much based on the externals and the temporary, the relative and the transitory. But as we connect with the internal, as we connect with the eternal, then we can be able to have more of that, because then we position ourselves for receiving. Number 4, we must go beyond merely loving our neighbors as ourselves. We should actually love others, especially our mates, even more than we love ourselves. When we love our partners that much, we realize that they have been given to us as a gift from God and that we do not own them. I've been giving some lectures at sometimes monasteries and at some, Trappist monks, seminaries. And there's always an issue about celibacy. And we explain, or about controlling sex energy. And we explain that to the degree that you are so much into ownership, proprietorship, it produces tremendous stagnations and being able to control and harness higher energies or to use those sex energies in a very positive way. Similarly, even in a heterogeneous relationship where the partners are thinking that they own each other, there will never be any sense of love when someone is thinking, this is my man, this is my woman, even these are my children. Because they are more than that. Our children are more than just our children. Our husband, our wife, our boyfriend, our girlfriend are more than just our partner. We take something as ours, we do with it as we like. When we do not feel of giving it attention, we don't. When we feel like abusing, we abuse. When we feel like denying, we feel like exploiting, we exploit. Because after all, it is ours. And it's our right to do as we want, when we want, how we want. So these days, people are thinking, this is mine. He's thinking, this is mine. She's thinking, this is hers. No wonder there's so much jealousy, enviousness, a lack of faith and trust. Because they're looking at each other only as an extension of themselves, rather than appreciating that someone has some powerful essence and they want to connect with their essence, two essence connecting together. So therefore, as we see the wife or the partner as someone given to us by God, for us to treat them in the way that the Supreme would be pleased. Understand that. Something belongs to someone who's very powerful, very important. You treat it even better than you treat your own stuff, your own things, because you want to be very attentive to the fact that the person who owns it will be pleased about what you've done with it, how you have been the caretaker. When we treat our children or our mate as ours, then if we feel like bashing them, we bash them. If we feel like leaving them, we leave them. We feel like, shouting on their face, we shout on their face. And to the degree that within ourselves, we are so gross, so manipulative and exploitive, then we treat the things that are ours based on the mentality that we have. So again, it goes back to our own developing of consciousness and then treating the people who we associate with in the spirit that it is a gift from the Supreme. How powerful it is if man and woman are honoring each other in that spirit, a gift from God. You are a gift from God. Man is thinking this way, woman is thinking this way, and they are trying now to be the caretakers of each other in a way that God Supreme would be pleased. So then what would happen? You would see that instead of people going to the divorce courts, they'll take material culture, they'll take sense gratification culture to the divorce court. In other words, we should divorce this mundaneness of exploitation and manipulation and self-centeredness, divorce that stuff, rather than divorcing the chance to be with a person and to complement each other in a very healthy and dynamic way. We should not, I'm not giving you some techniques like 99% of most of the books and therapists that you hear about. When you look at their lives, they have 3 and 4 divorces. You check it out. You find most of the people who are talking about relationships and you ask them about their own status. And you'll be shocked to see that the number one persons who are teaching these kind of things, they have not become. And therefore they know. Like I was explaining the other day, and you'll see in tomorrow's paper, tomorrow I have an article coming out, an interview. I was interviewed in the Washington Post. And so in the religious section, hopefully you'll see some interesting things if the reporter is honest. And I was explaining to him about this crisis in leadership, that proper leadership is not just to tell, it's not just to see, it's not just to order, it's not just to command. It's It's not even just to do, but it is to be. And if someone is proper, then their policies and their actions are going to be proper. That we have to be careful about this nonsense material cosmetic situation where people are talking about a private life and a public life. And that it's okay what you do in your private life. When it is only about the individual and is not about being, when it is not about honoring each other as God, but it's not seeing the God that's in each person, then it's just about the cosmetic, it's just about the performance. And now it's become so gross that people are publicly saying it is just about the performance. Don't worry about what I am. Don't worry about what I really do. Don't worry about what I really think. But look at how I parade, how I perform, how I manipulate, how I shrewdly do things to produce something based on some ulterior motivation. And if I do it good, honor it. Don't be concerned about what my motive is. Don't be concerned about what I am. I may be a criminal. I may be an abuser. I may be a batterer. I may be a fornicator. I may be an adulteress. It don't matter about that. But look at how I perform. Look at what I say and not what I do. And the majority of people in the country are saying it is all right. Because they are not being. And because they are not being, then they are so much affected by the externals. But if they themselves are being loving, if they themselves are having that sense of divinity, then they will impose on others, especially the leaders, to coordinate that which they are. But when the people themselves are having such a consciousness of impoverishment, when people themselves are having such a consciousness of lust and greed, then they will not demand very much from their leaders because they themselves are not the carriers and not trying to connect with something higher. So we go on to number 5. We should always view, so we get that last point, that seeing the partner as a gift from God, going beyond just one seeing him or herself as the proprietor, the owner, treating things, people better than if they were just yours. 5, brother. We should always view ourselves as love in action, carrying love wherever we go, so filled with love that it naturally overflows to everyone we meet. In this frame of mind, we serve as representatives of the divine in every aspect of our lives. I'll read this next paragraph. We can practice love in action through the breath. As we inhale, we visualize ourselves absorbing the pain and frustration. We take it in and extinguish it. Of our loved ones. As we exhale, we send happiness, joy, love, and peace back to them. Actually, this is not just a practice to help those close to us, but also the entire world. We inhale. We are concerned. Because loving persons are not just oblivious to things. They are concerned. They give great attention to humanity. They love people because they are loving and they see the God within others. So when they see pain, they feel the pain of others. In Sanskrit, we call this param dukkha dukhi kripam buddhi. One who feels the miseries of others, feels the happiness of others. When you really care about somebody, you literally kind of share a similar force field of consciousness. You share a similar, some similar aspirations and things also. So therefore, you are very concerned about their well-being, what they're experiencing, what the lacks is, as well as what the assets are. We are not oblivious to other people's problems. We want to help. We exhale. We are breathing out love, compassion, and healing. This is not just an idle exercise. It has a powerful impact. And if we monitor the process over time, we will witness the beneficial effects on others. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Love in action, meaning that as we move about, we are clear about who we are, what we want to do, and what we want to accommodate, and what things we're not going to play into. And in this way, as we move about, we are like, it becomes contagious, just like disease is contagious. Devotion is contagious. Love is contagious. So when someone is carrying that kind of mindset, then as they move about, they also infect others. It's rare these days, but sometimes you find somebody who has such good feelings about life, such good feelings about people, that just being around them, you feel elevated. You feel picked up. You feel motivated. You feel stimulated. And you want more and more to be in their energy. So you see the converse of that also. That some people, that when you're around them, they're just a drain. They make you feel, so you feel so much anxiety. When you leave, you just feel like taking rest. You feel like, just like you have to shake something off, because genuinely you do. Because you're walking into their force field and you're picking up some of what they're throwing out, and therefore there's need for cleansing when you're entering into those kind of environments. So being love in action, you are sharing that higher with others, and again you're receiving, and then being able to reach more out, to get more, to share more. Number 6, see your relationship with your mate as an integral part of your relationship with the Lord. Here is a practice that can help. Visualize a triangle. Okay, you just visualize in your own mind a triangle. You are visualizing a triangle with points A, B, and C. You are A. Your partner is B. And the Lord dwells in the heart is C. You got the message already, huh? Make an agreement with your partner to form this triangle as a permanent bond between you, so that whenever you meditate, chant, or pray, you are in connection with your partner and with the Lord. You do not necessarily have to meditate together even, or think about the connection simultaneously. Your agreement will work anytime and any place. That means making your whole relationship so much based on the fact that you're A, partner is B, and God is there. And so this goes beyond just your physically being together. It goes beyond any geographical situation, economic, political, social things that are happening. You are there, your mate is there, and God is there. Now, if we do that, then constantly as we interact with the mate, we're thinking, God is watching. How will God feel about what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what I'm arranging, what I'm about to get involved in? Can you imagine what would happen if people really thought and acted in such a way? Would people be eager to cheat, or would they engage in cheating, being so much in the cognizance that God is watching? Would they minimize the relationship when they realize that it's not just a matter of breaking something so fast, but you're breaking also a bond with God? As you break that relationship, then you're breaking a triangle. And as you fulfill it, as you are accountable and responsible, then you're not just being responsible only to the partner, but you're being responsible to the Godhead. These are very simple techniques, but very profound in their essence. So many problems could immediately be eradicated if people would just set up that sort of situation in their minds. I'll move a little faster because I have another engagement a little after this. Number 7, share your spiritual realizations with your mate, helping raise your partner's consciousness as well as your own. Then your relationship will become one of growth and acceleration. Sometimes we fear, some of you, if you look at some of these things, you'll see why your relationships haven't been working. You'll see why you've been sometimes in so much conflict and it still hasn't worked. Or why you've tried, the tall person didn't work, a short person, a fat person, a skinny person, a younger person, an older person, a religious person, a sectarian person, and it still hasn't worked. And then you just, I won't say the next thing. But it has a lot to do that God is not there. That you're not tuning into their essence. You're looking for somebody to make something happen to you. You're not being and then connecting based on that. You're so much connected with only the externals, while the real happiness is an internal affair. It's like you want to buy apples, but you keep going, to the auto mechanic. It's not. You can't find it there, and so we're trying to get love in places that we can't find it. We're wondering why it's not happening. Then your relationship will become one of growth and acceleration. Sometimes we fear surrendering in spiritual life, afraid of having to give up our identity. But we should understand that surrender to the Supreme is an opportunity to regain our full identity Without a spiritual dimension to our lives, we are not integrated and cannot experience deep love. Those of you who are of higher consciousness, which I assume is perhaps all of you, it is impossible to have a secure relationship and you are trying to carry higher consciousness and your mate does not. It is only a matter of time that you are going to drain each other, frustrate each other. You're both going to be at a loss, and especially yourself. You're trying to be an agent of higher consciousness. If you have a mate who's not trying to pursue higher consciousness, you do not have a mate. You simply have someone who you're associating with very impersonally, even though you may be doing all kinds of so-called personal things. But if you have a mate, and mate means that there's some serious things that you have common ground on. There's some serious things that you are sharing. There's some serious things that you are appreciating as you struggle together, thinking about what is best for each other. And so if you're trying to develop higher consciousness, then it is important that you share that you involve your mate in such things. Otherwise, it's only a matter of time. If one is growing and the other person is not growing, then there's no partnership. There's no real sense of unity developing, but more and more fragmentation and separation. So first, it's best to look for people who also are having higher consciousness. But if somehow you got into something with some anticipations, you found out the person didn't have higher consciousness, then it's important for you to start working and sharing with them so that you grow together. Or if you both were in rather mundane consciousness and you've risen out of that, then it's important to bring the other person along with you so that then you are then sharing a real sense of unity and not just pseudo-unity. Number 8. I'm going to finish in 5 minutes. Practice offering the same quality of love you feel for your mate to everyone. In other words, extend to others the love you have for the most lovable being in your life, but without the sexual component. We may wonder how to subtract the sexual element. Just remember that sex and love are not necessarily synonymous. Our love for our children can be extremely intense without any sexual overtones, no matter what the circumstances. Try to develop that same kind of love in each of your relationships. That means it's like somebody walks into the room and you are thinking, if you can just think in the mind, that this is someone who I love, someone who I really care for, to the maximum. Now, if you think in that way, then we should act in the way that we would do with someone who we care so deeply about. We said take the sexual component out, because we're not saying everybody come in who you feel good about or who you see you want to have some conjugal connection with them. Because so much now we're in Hollywood love, and so everything comes down only to sex. And so therefore nobody has sex. Understand what I'm saying? When we're thinking that love is only sex, nobody has sex. It's just machines coming together. People have union without having union. They're coming together for sex, and it's so much based on lust, it's so much based on egocentricity, it's so much based on seeing the person as an extension of themselves, and therefore what they are doing is the big M. We got some children here. So that is what they're doing, calling sex, even with another partner. You understand? When you play funny games with yourself, you do things with yourself. Because the conscience is so much based on the self gratifications, and to really connect with someone, we have to know more than just their body, and more than just our bodies. And so no wonder people have many partners. Or no wonder they're ready to have sex with all kinds of things, because they are feeling empty. When you got to go so many places to buy your dresses, buy your clothes, you got to do so many places to go eat, it means you're not satisfied with the situation. So you got to keep looking around, keep going around, hoping that one situation is going to be sufficient. But when you have a connection, and you keep going there and going there and going there. So we see the need for people to transform lust into actual love. So the love that we have, see, sometimes it's hard to be loving because we don't have that experience. So we think of somebody who we care for the most, and we can just try to capture that mindset and try to have that feeling toward everybody that we have to deal with. how much great love is going to come out at us because we are that, and now we are connecting with such. Now I'm going to go down to number 9 so we can finish up. We have just 2 more. Try to develop competitive relationships. Sounds almost the opposite of the whole discussion. Huh? We're talking about selflessness, about caring for others, about connecting with people's essence, and now we're talking about being competitive. Well, let's look at the next line. Try to develop competitive relationships. Huh? Doesn't mean you go out and buy some boxing gloves and you take a pair and your partner takes a pair. Or you start drawing up contract. So this is yours, this is mine. This is what's happening now. People marry, they have contract. When there is divorce, you can't take this, you can't take that, this is covered. And they call that love. At first, this may sound strange and contradictory. How can we talk about cooperation, sharing and selflessness, and then advocate competition? Big question. But actually, there's no contradiction. It doesn't exist. In a spiritual context, competition means that we strive to be more selfless than our partner. Seeing who can give more, who can share more, who can help more, who can be there more for the other. We compete in reminding our mate about the Supreme Lord and encouraging the person to move faster toward the Lord. The purpose of the competition is to assist one another in spiritual growth. So we take that whole materialistic competition, and we now have the competition of selflessness, of compassion. Any one of these, if somebody takes it deeply, can make a strong relationship. You don't have to even do all 10. Any one of these techniques that we're mentioning, if one dives into it deeply, it can produce a very wholesome relationship that is so much needed at this time. So people having so much mental disturbance and taking the drugs so much because they are needing now something to bring about the ecstasy, to bring about the altered state of consciousness, to bring about the excitement. But it's all external trying to bring in. But it's really should be from internal. This process is only for people who want to be spiritual, who seek higher experiences beyond the flickering pleasures of material life. Such a competition in selflessness encourages partners to remember why they are in this body, to become one again, loving entities devoted to the Lord. So people who are materialistic, we're not encouraging them to be competitive. They have that down, mastered already. But for those who are pursuing higher consciousness, to compete in selflessness and caring. Sometimes we have some glimpses of that. We want to do something for our beloved. He or she wants to do something for us. We make sacrifices. We do something. The other person sacrificed. And it's like so sweet. Because we have moved ourselves from being the center. And we're thinking about the other's needs, well-being, care, etc. But if it's just gross, then we're doing business. We have a mate because we're trying to get something. And we have to agree to do some things because of what we really are trying to get ourselves. Now, the last one. Now, this is only just 2 pages of the book. Huh? And we're rushing through this. It's only 2 pages, just giving you an idea of the kind of things that's in here. Treat all relationships as practice in preparation for the ultimate divine relationships in the kingdom of God. This means that we should practice seeing our mate as an agent of God, recognizing our own divine nature, and remembering that we are children of God, for whom great realizations and pleasures are available. Only in the kingdom of God will we find the love and eternal relationships we long for so deeply. So we can begin to create the kingdom of God within this particular body, within this particular planet, at this particular time. Just as if you're going to go someplace, you can start preparing for that place, and you begin to bring so much of the mentality, the consciousness of that environment by your preparation. So as we live in the world but not of the world, then we're not slaved by the mundane patterns of the world. As we live in this prison, for this prison, then we will be so much incarcerated on and on by the patterns of this particular prison. This is what we're really talking about, being real free men and women. Free people can actually enjoy great internal connections, pleasures, happiness. And entities who are enslaved can never really experience any heights of anything. other than depression, anxiety, and gloom. So it takes freeing the consciousness. It takes giving stimulation to the soul. It takes recognizing the eternal and the internal. And then being that, and now being able to share that with others. That will make a serious difference. That helps us in being able to prepare ourselves for our ongoing life in the spiritual kingdom. The higher spiritual kingdoms are literally ongoing exchanges of loving festivals, of wonderful, vibrant associating that is extremely invigorating, that increases every single contact, every single exchange is higher than the previous exchange. Material life is almost the opposite. Constant deterioration, degradation, and devastation. So we encourage you in your relationships to try to get the most out of life by giving the most to the environment, by being devotional, by being loving, by being so much lovable that people are practically tripping to connect with your particular presence because of what you are. Otherwise, we're going to see more and more people, and I'm going to end with this, we're going to see more and more people as we're entering now to the 21st century, just totally zapped out. I mean, you just look now. You get on the planes, you get on the buses, you get on the trains, you walk downtown, you go in the offices, and you see people are robots. They are like sophisticated animals in the way they're dressed, in their interactions, etc. But if we develop this greater internal consciousness, then we see a tremendous difference. Then we realize that love is not a noun, it's a verb. It's what we do, what we share, what we experience, how we connect together. Then we understand that coming together, we honor each other's essence. How powerful sex life is when people come together with the idea of honoring the God that's within each person. Otherwise, how manipulative and how exploitive. How powerful relationships are when people see themselves as simply being the caretakers, when they see their wife, their husband, their children as a gift from God and not themselves as the proprietor. Then they use things, relate to things, associate with people as God would want them to associate. How powerful it is when people are trying to see the God essence in everyone and trying to relate to everyone in the dynamic play that they're having a chance to reciprocate with the Godhead, with the Supreme Personality of the Lord. How much we avoid getting brought down to other people's stuff when we do not try to just look to be loved. We're just trying to look for somebody to love us, then we'll keep looking and feeling empty. But if we are loving, then we will radiate that, and people who are also similar will look for us, will connect with us. How powerful it is we can avoid the game of participating where lust is in and love is out. We want to go beyond these frustrations and anxieties that come when people are just playing the body games, when people are just so distracted, and in as much as that they're thinking that life is about interactions of commodities rather than community. But when we make the family unit strong, and it starts with proper interpersonal relationships, then it is dynamic. And when it's very dynamic, we feel so good about life, we're able to experience more natural things. And when we are more natural, we naturally become more spiritual. But when we constantly have to go to the external to bring within, then we'll keep playing that game of dependence on the environment of incarceration, rather than the environment of liberation and the environment of divine acceleration. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.